Welcome to the Grind and Greatness podcast, where we dive deep into the world of relentless determination, hard work, and unwavering dedication to help you unlock your full potential. We're your hosts, Jonathan and Joseph, and your mentors along this journey to greatness. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories, expert insights, and practical tips where we've turned our dreams into reality through sheer grit and resilience. Whether you're looking to excel in your career, improve your health and well-being, or simply level up in life, this podcast is your go-to source for strategies, motivation, and the mindset needed to achieve personal excellence. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today, we wanted to introduce ourselves, why we're here, what this means to us, and how we have helped hundreds of people and clients through their journeys to tackle their goals, dreams, and aspirations to become better versions of themselves. Mr. Jonathan, how are you doing today, sir?
Man, I'm doing phenomenal, and I'm just grateful to be here, right? To have this platform to impact as many lives as we possibly can through, high performance, mental toughness, discipline, and just, personal excellence, right? And so, man, also just grateful, to have you next to me, right? Another like-minded individual who's striving for higher ground, who wants to make a big splash in this world and leave it better than he found it.
For sure. And we're going to talk a lot about like-minded individuals here in a little bit. But before we get started, go ahead and tell them a little bit about you. Who are you? What are you about? All that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan McCardo, and first and foremost, I'm a family man. All right. I have 4 handsome young men from age 15, 12, 4, and 2. I've been married for about 18 years to my junior high sweetheart, 7th grade.
Junior high, you don't hear that very often.
Junior high sweetheart.
High school sweetheart.
I don't think you hear that at all. Yeah. I think that's 0.00001%.
Love that.
So proud to be in that that statistic of pros of 0.00001%.
Yeah.
Also, I own Vision Board Investments, which is an out-of-state real estate investment company where I purchase multifamily homes and I rehab them, and I put families who've been on a waiting list for years to give them a home and give them the opportunity to have that and to be able to impact another. Right, that's another thing that serves my soul and also secures the future. Right,
for sure.
I'm currently franchising out of Camp Gladiator, which is an outdoor group fitness program that I've been with for about 7.5 years. Beautiful 7.5-year journey. And I'm ready to transition to my new phase of life, which is my own company called Elite Mind Athlete that I started at the beginning of the year, which is high performance. And I'm teaching the next generation, so student athletes, high school level, of how to operate at the highest level. Right, if you want to be a champion, you got to do what champions do. And so in this program, we track their productivity, we increase their discipline, and we increase their performance. And so we structure and organize their day to win, right? How to clock in when everybody clocks out. For right, sure. The winning recipe. For sure. And so, and also I have just transitioned into an 8 to 5 because you're starting a new company. You're starting from ground zero. And so you got to be sure that the finance piece is taken care of so that way you can keep funding more income, more capital into the actual business. Right. Absolutely. So that's been a new journey, being back into the 8 to 5 system after being gone for 7.5 years.
Yeah, and I love that about you because you've transitioned back to the 8 to 5 system, and so now what you're preaching to your athletes of you got to clock in when everyone else clocks out. That's what you're doing. You have Absolutely. A full-time job, 8 to 5, and then you clock out, and guess what? You clock right back in to grow your dream, your passion with working with athletes. So I love that, man.
Absolutely, man.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so coming up next, man, my man Joseph, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living right now.
Yeah, guys. Joseph Guandolo. I'm 32 years old. I don't have any kids. I've never been married. I only have a dog, and I was a prior combat medic in the Army. So I spent 4 years in the Army straight out of high school and did a lot of healthcare, a lot of medicine, and a lot of combat. I was in Afghanistan 2011, 2012. Quickly transitioned out of the military, became a personal trainer for Gold's Gym, got promoted a couple times, raising in the chain of command to open up some Gold's Gyms in San Antonio, Texas. I left that all behind to start with Camp Gladiator as well as a franchise owner, an entrepreneur at its finest, and I've been with Camp Gladiator for about 7 years. My most recent role with Camp Gladiator is the Director of Nutrition. So we got the privilege to launch a nutrition product about a year ago, a little bit over a year, where we launched hundreds of coaches and thousands of clients, and just did an amazing job there. I also own Facts Over Fads Nutrition. That's been around for about 6 years.
Which is your baby, right?
That's my baby.
Yeah.
That's my bread and butter. We just launched another coach. So now we're up to 3 total coaches and hundreds of clients nationwide. And that's going to be, going to become a household name, I think, in the very near future.
Absolutely.
There was something missing in my life. I think it was due to my athletic background and my military background. So I started another company called Unconquerable. That's only been around for about 10 months now, which is all about mental toughness, all about mindset, all about grinding and hustling every single day, being different, and last but not least is I have Best Coaches, which you're obviously a part of with me. And we get to meet bi-weekly to help grow this entrepreneurial spirit that we have when we help to pour into other like-minded coaches who are trying to grow their business, whether it's fitness, whether it's nutrition or health coaching and all the above. We get to work on the ever-changing industry, and we get to work on what works well for us. And that's another passion of mine, is just helping like-minded individuals grow their business.
Absolutely. And this...
And
Grind
now
to Greatness.
The Grind to Greatness podcast, another notch on our belt. Here we are. I think we have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge that we get to voice to our listeners.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for that.
I'm super stoked. So let's give it a little background how this even started. How did we even connect? So about a year and a half ago, I asked Joseph to go on a date with me.
For sure. It was a great date.
Joseph just kind of came out of nowhere. He was in the CG system, and I got to go to some of his virtual workouts as an area director of kind of giving him some feedback here and there. I didn't think too much of Joseph at the time. I thought he was just another trainer. And then out of nowhere, I just come to find out this guy has done some amazing things, right? He's grew that CG nutrition, and I was like, man, he's built an online program that's not just a little online program. It's drastically has increased to about what at your highest 400 clients.
Yeah, almost 500.
Almost 500 clients. Now that's not little. That's a big splash in the online space.
For sure.
And so I was highly interested because that's one of the routes that I wanted to take, right? And so just like anyone, I asked Joseph to go on a date and just have some conversation about impacting. And so I took him to Pine House for some pizza and just a little bit of alcohol.
I think there was no pizza and a bunch of alcohol.
Was there no pizza? My bad. I was running tight on money at the time.
It's all right. It was so good that I didn't talk to you for a year after that.
Yeah. We had a great talk, though. It was a 4-hour date.
4-hour conversation.
4-hour conversation.
We got to talk about everything, past, present, future, mindset. We discussed education and books and mentors that we look up to.
Yeah.
We got to talk about what we're doing in the nutrition and fitness space. We got to talk about your entrepreneurialism with your homes and all that stuff. And it was a great first date. And nothing too much came out of it. It was just all right, cool, great first date. I did ghost you for a while. I apologize. I apologize for that. But in order to make it up to you, I packed up my life in San Antonio and I moved right down the street in Austin, Texas. And so, I think I made up for it.
No, absolutely. So when you came down, you'll get to hear my story a little bit later in the podcast, but I don't like working alone. I love partnering with like-minded individuals because I just know the impact and the accountability just can be that much greater. And so I wanted to start a podcast about high performance, because that's what I'm deeply obsessed with, because that's the next chapter in my life, is teaching the next generation how to perform at a high level in any arena, not just sports, but how to make that translatable. And I was like, man, when you came down into town, I was like, I got to pitch this guy. I got to have this guy on my podcast because we got to have more great 4-hour talks, but why not just record it?
For sure.
Right.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I have a couple of questions for you, because this is part of what these podcasts is going to be about, is how to, take that leap, take that jump into maneuvering and doing something new that you never done before. And I want to ask you, what made you want to do business with me? What are some of the things that you were thinking about when you do business with somebody, and what made you want to say yes? Yeah.
Well, unlike you, I'm a lone ranger.
Yeah.
I do everything on my own. Every business I've ever started was on my own. There's obviously people in my life who are influential and who have helped me get to where I am, but 99% of the time I'm grinding on my own, early mornings, late nights by myself. And so when you approached me, it was probably the first time where I said, you know what, I bet this guy's for real. I bet he's a man of his word. I bet he will help hold me accountable, which has never been done. I think a lot of times people, get, I don't know, intimidated by me maybe because I have a very strong personality, very strong viewpoints. And I think you're not intimidated by me at all. I think you're more curious than anything. And I can see that about you. And again, with your new company, Elite Mindset Athletes, it's just like, it goes hand in hand with what I'm all about, right? The whole, hey, we got to work when other people don't want to work. We got to grind when other people don't want to grind. And so that stood out to me hugely, number one. And then number two would be just that now that we have the ability to hold each other accountable, now that we have the ability to be so close to one another, and that we can essentially show up for one another to do this podcast, right? I think oftentimes people have a dream and they don't hold the team accountable. And it's just like, oh, well, what are you doing? Oh, no, it's like, no. Right now, hey, Sunday, hey, right, whatever it is, like, just make it happen, right? And so that piece of accountability is going to be huge, I think, and I think we're going to get a lot done. And again, we are very like-minded, but we come from two very different backgrounds, which we're going to dive into in future episodes. So you'll learn a little bit about that. And so to find a like-minded individual with a very completely different viewpoint because of what we've been through with life and how we mentally operate. But again, we're on the same journey. We just have two different paths.
Absolutely. And I think that's the recipe for our audience. If you're looking to, get different perspectives, you're definitely going to get two different perspectives, but some alignment, and sometimes they're not going to be aligned because they can't. You don't have kids, right?
Right. Nope.
Or a wife, right? And so that way I can come in with different lenses. And I think that's super important because there's not one way to skin a cat.
For sure.
Right. And you have to find what works for you through trial and error. And here's a great example of what works and what works for me and how we can kind of initially come back to the same agreement of work ridiculously hard. Absolutely. No one's not. And, to set the standard or the stage for the podcast, we're going to cuss. Absolutely. It's part of me and who I am.
And so if you hear a cuss word, it's just who we are. And we're not going to fake it to make it. We're going to be our authentic selves.
Absolutely.
And we're going to offend some people probably.
It's a must, and that needs to happen.
Yep.
But not on purpose.
No,
right?
Just out of the kindness of our hearts.
Out of kindness of our heart to serve.
And it's what we want. And you hear this all the time from tons of mentors. If you feel offended by something, it's probably because it resonates with you.
It's probably true.
It's probably because it's true. And so if you do get offended by something we're talking about, I challenge you to sit down and think about, reflect. Yeah. Why does that offend you? And it's probably because it's true, or it's true. It may be about you or about people around you. Because we're going to talk about our social circles a lot, I think, and priorities a lot, I think. And so I want you to don't shy away from the podcast if you get offended. Don't shy away from the podcast if you hear a cuss word. I want you to dive in, and I want you to actually voice your concerns. Send us messages, comment on the videos and on the audios, and let us know where you're coming from. And we'll be able to comment back, and we'll be able to maybe even make future episodes with topics or viewpoints that our audience listens and says about, right?
Absolutely. I'm glad that you brought that up because I want to be in full alignment of who I am, right? And that's waking up in the morning and knowing that you can just be yourself. I think Oprah made just a great point. She's like, if I would have known that just being me would have got me here, I would have done it a long time ago. Right. That was impactful.
Huge.
Right. And I know a lot of people right now are going through life right now having to be somebody that they're not because their job has different alignments for them than they have to portray, and they think that they're stuck, and you're not stuck, right? So that's what this podcast is about.
For sure.
And so for future reference, these podcasts are only going to be around 30 to 45 minutes. We want to make them a little bit shorter. I like the more Q&A, right? We're going to get some questions. We're going to give you some more feedback. But for the next two episodes, they are going to be a little bit longer in depth. It is an interview style. We're going to get to know Joseph's story. You're going to get to know my story. But after that, we're going to be rocking and rolling. And we're going to get some good feedback from you guys. And just keep improving.
For sure. And with that being said, guys, like, subscribe, share, all the things. And remember, if you have a question, definitely let us know. And if you have a specific question, whether Jonathan or myself, make sure you let us know, hey, this question is for Jonathan, because again, we have very different backgrounds. Our answers could be drastically different, but we could probably give you both of our answers and see which one connects with you the best.
Perfect. Well, with that being said, you guys have an amazing day and stay tuned for the next episode.